Dr. Buzz, boy, do we need you this morning.
Okay.
Thanks for showing up.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
All right, Dr. Buzz, is there any treatment for a guy with paranoid delusions?
There is, provided that person wants treatment. And there's the key right there. This is an individual who doesn't think he needs treatment. This is an individual who believes that these are not paranoid delusions, but there is truly a conspiracy out to get him, and that he is being persecuted and he is being punished, and no one sees what he sees. His perception is skewed, so he doesn't see or doesn't have any insight or any judgment or logic when it comes to people telling him, hey, look, you're not true. You're not being lucid. You're not seeing things clearly. Your perception is skewed. You're paranoid. He doesn't see that, so he's not open to treatment. Makes it very difficult for someone to form a therapeutic alliance with a therapist if they don't think anything's wrong with them. And then when you try to tell them, maybe you should see a psychiatrist, maybe you should see a psychologist, that seems to agitate them and get them more upset. With the beginning of Alzheimer's, there are medications available, but the person also has to recognize that they may have cognitive impairments, and they also have to see a therapist or a psychiatrist as someone who is there to help them, not hurt them.
Yeah, and with this kind of anger and hostility, he's probably driven away everybody in his family and his life who could help him as well. It's just an awful situation.
Okay. And you wouldn't stop leaving us alone.
Wow. Wow. All right, Dr. Buzz, this seems to me to prove the adage, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. I mean, that was some phone message from Marta's new boyfriend against this defendant, wasn't it?
No, it's really scary. You know, usually that comes from a patient to me when I've committing them to psychiatric treatment.
Really? You've had messages like that?
You bet. And I've also been told that they want to chop me up and put me in the refrigerator or tie me down in their basement. You know, that kind of stuff. You see that kind of craziness when you're working with patients who have all this internal conflict. They're upset, they're driven, they have these paranoid delusions, and then they spew it out to everyone, and it affects everyone. Their rage, their problems become everybody's problems, and there's no intervention because the person cannot see clearly. They're being driven and ruled by their emotions, and their emotions are skewed.
Dr. Buzz, you know, I do respect that people should have the right to represent themselves. It's just that as the system is currently comprised, there's a reason why lawyers go to law school for 3 years. And then, frankly, even after that, we're not really competent to do a trial all by ourselves on a big case. We need to be second chair for a while, for a couple of years, and then slowly, you know, earn our way up to being top chair. At trial, there's just a lot of laws, rules, regulations, especially evidence rules, trial strategy. Defendants just don't know that stuff. And so given all of that, help us understand the mind of somebody who says, I don't like this lawyer, I don't like that lawyer, I'm going to churn through 4 lawyers, and then, you know what, to heck with it, I'm going to do this myself.
Okay, well, first off, I know lots of rational, logical people who don't like their lawyer and don't want their lawyer and reject a lot of lawyers because they all think they're after their money, and ultimately that they need to find the best lawyer. That's being logical and reasonable in my book. What we're dealing with is certain personalities who are very, very self-absorbed, very narcissistic. They have a skewed perception of what life is, and they also have a very grandiose sense of themselves. So it's very hard to deal with them because they think they're better than everyone else. They think they're smarter than everybody else. They think they know everything more than anyone else can know. You're dealing with a certain kind of personality. It's very hard to interact, especially when the person feels that they're very driven in what they're doing. We must remember these people believe their paranoid delusions. These people feel very self-righteous, and they're ruled by those fears that everyone's out to get them, and they're trying to prove to the court, to the world, that they're right.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, that they believe their own delusions, and that's why what looks crazy to us makes perfect sense to somebody like Marc Benayer. Any words of comfort or solace or advice for this family that's endured so much pain?
My heart goes out to Jonathan Samuels' family. You know, one never wants to be blamed for trying to help people. And this is a man who clearly was helping people, helping to help themselves. It's very clear. Sometimes when we see these tragedies, we blame the victim, and this is not a victim. This is something that should be admired, and really we all should aspire to.
Sorry to do that to you with just 10 seconds left, but those are good, strong words of advice.